My name is Paige Lynch, and I am a cinematographer and a director and a photographer, also a writer. And I own some websites. I'm the owner of a few websites. There's seewhathappens.tv.
See what happens!
And there is TennesseeCapture.com, which is a place for my photography, and also a place for people to see just Tennessee businesses, places, people, and just enjoy the state of Tennessee. And then there's PaigeLynch.com, which is just my website for basically a portfolio or whatever I feel like saying that doesn't fit on the other two websites. So some of the equipment that I use for filmmaking is I used to use a old Canon Vixia camera. Was my first, we'll call that actual video camera. Eventually moved to DSLR, the whole DSLR film craze, and that was a 60D is the one that I bought. And then later I moved to a couple of 7Ds. I sold the 60D and bought a couple of 7D cameras, and I guess they have, I think they have a little bit better dynamic range and just look a little bit better overall. They definitely have better highlight roll-off, so I switched to those cameras. And I was using those for a while, and then eventually I bought a Red Scarlet. And the Red Scarlet, a lot of people complain about the workflow, but actually it sped up my workflow. So I guess it just depends on what you are doing and what your other equipment is, your computers and whatnot. For me, it sped things up. And so with the Red, when I purchased the Red, I was coming from DSLR, so a lot of my equipment, we'll just call it, was weak. In that it wasn't built to support the weight of a Red, and so I went through this phase like, okay, now I have a Red Scarlet and I can't move the thing. Like all I can do is put it in my hands and walk around like this. So I set out to try and fix that, but I also wanted to do something that I did not have with the DSLRs, and I had learned on set over the years the value of doing things extremely quickly. If you can move your camera from one movement setup to another movement setup or type of setup, if you can do it very quickly, you have more time to actually tell the story on set. And so with the Red, I bought a big beefy tripod. Then I bought a Cinovate Atlas 10 slider, and I bought 2 tripods to support the ends of that slider. And then I modified my Red Rock Micro shoulder rig, which I have right here. I modified my Red Rock Micro shoulder rig to be able to use the base plate, which is a just typical, your ARRI style dovetail base plate. I had a Manfrotto tripod, and then I had tripods with that same base plate for the slider, and then I put a Manfrotto tripod head on top of the slider, same plate again. And then this is a Manfrotto, this is like $50, this thing sitting on top of this Zacuto plate, and it's the same thing. So between all of those, my Red is able to go to have a base plate assembly attached to it. And it can go from, using the plate, it can go from shoulder rig to slider to tripod in a few seconds. And that's how I'm able to move around really quickly on set, and it just allows me way more time for just worrying about the more important things, the lighting, the scene, the story. I don't have to worry as much about taking gear apart constantly and putting it back together again. I'm talking about that because that's worth its weight in gold. That's better than any camera quality or anything. Just the ability to move from type of device quickly is just, you can't put a price tag on that. It's worth your money. I get the question a lot about, I get that a lot about, why I bought a Red Scarlet, and which is a very good question. For me, all these cameras come down to taste. Me personally, I wish that there was one camera that could give you a great cinematic image and had crazy high dynamic range and was only like $1,000, and that's just what everyone buys because it would make life a lot simpler. But that's not really an option right now. Blackmagic pocket camera, but that's not really as big of an option right now. My work was lending itself to narrative. A lot of music video work, commercials and whatnot, and broadcasts and everything. 1080p is all you need, and I know there's all the 4K talk with broadcast, but it's not there yet, and so you can get away with 1080p, but in narrative work, sometimes you don't know if it's going to end up on the big screen or not, and a lot of times that's your goal. So I'm working with other people as I continually make more contacts. We've been discussing a lot of options for different TV series ideas, film production company ideas, and just narrative works that actually might end up being on the big screen. So for me, it was of the absolute utmost importance to have the highest quality cinematic image that my money could buy, and for me that was the Scarlet. One of the greatest pieces of equipment that I think that I have is for movement, and again, that's not to be underestimated, because moving your camera, I would say, is far more crucial than what camera you're using. The ability to efficiently move it around to be able to tell is how you're crafting the story. And my equipment that I like is the GlideCam. I have a GlideCam HD4000, and it cannot support the weight of the Red. It will break your arm right off, just break it off. But it's really great though, and a lot of people, I think, don't use it because you do have to put in the time. It's a practice thing. You have to have experience to be able to use it efficiently. But over time, if you practice, and not just when you're making a film, but just like me, when I first got it, I would just go around my subdivision walking around with the thing outside on the sidewalk and running around with it and just getting used to using it. Come back, review my footage, figure out what I'm doing wrong, make a change, keep practicing with it. Over time, you'll become a boss with a GlideCam, and then you'll figure out, wow, I can do anything with a GlideCam. There's all kinds of shots that I would skip setting up a slider because it's so quick. I'm like, I just use GlideCam. And it's absolutely my favorite tool to use when it comes to smaller cameras. And of course now, you could just go get a Movi or something. So, I mean, who really cares what I'm saying? Nobody cares what I'm saying. He's one of those old guys that uses a GlideCam. The Zoom H6 is way better than the H4n. Buy it. If you have an H4n, please bury it in your backyard, but not before whacking it with a shovel many times and giving it the death it deserves through a torturous ending. One more really important piece of filmmaking gear is your mouse pad. You always have to make sure that you have an absolute, the best mouse pad that is inspiring to you, that inspires you to make truly epic content that you can enjoy, that everyone can enjoy. And this is actually the type of content that goes viral on YouTube directly, so it's inspiration for everyone.